In the land of Canaan, a man named Abram was living a life of faith and obedience to God. God had called him to leave his homeland and follow him to a new place. But despite his many blessings, Abram had a lingering worry. Abram had no children, and he worried about who would inherit his wealth and fulfill God's promises to him. As he looked up at the vast sky, he couldn't help but feel uncertain about the future. God spoke to Abram, saying, "Abram, do not be afraid. I am your shield, your very great reward." Abram looked surprised and sat up straighter, his attention fully on God. "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? The heir to my estate is Eliezer of Damascus." God looked at Abram with compassion and said, "This man will not be your heir. Instead, a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." God then took Abram outside and pointed toward the night sky, saying, "Look up at the heavens and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall your offspring be." Abram gazed at the stars, his expression shifting from worry to wonder. In that moment, God reassured Abram of his promise. Abram believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. But God wasn't finished. He had a significant covenant to establish with Abram, one that would shape the future of many generations. God instructed Abram to bring a heifer, a goat, and a ram, all 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. This was a sacred act, symbolizing the seriousness of the covenant that God was about to make with Abram. As Abram watched over the sacrifice, the sun began to set, and a deep sleep fell over him. A thick darkness descended upon him. God spoke to Abram in his dream, saying, "Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. But I will punish the nation they serve, and afterward they will come out with great possessions." God continued, "You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure." When Abram awoke, he saw God's presence in a remarkable way. A smoking fire pot and a blazing torch passing between the pieces of the sacrificed animals, signifying God's promise of a covenant. God declared, "To your descendants, I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates." Abram stood in awe, taking in the enormity of God's promise. God's covenant with Abram was not just a promise of land, but a promise of a legacy. Abram's faith and trust in God would set the foundation for a nation that would bless the entire world. As we reflect on Abram's journey, we are reminded of the power of faith and the importance of trusting God's promises, even when the future seems uncertain. God's covenant with Abram reminds us that our lives can be part of something much bigger than ourselves. Just like Abram, we can find hope and purpose in trusting God's plan. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more inspiring content. Like and share with others. Hit the notification bell for updates. And let us know where you're watching from in the comments below.